Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 24. Stick with us today as we hang out with another one of our East Coast teammates. He's also a professional wrestler. And also, go out and check out rollamongus.com for all your lanky fight gear. Great gis, great no-gi stuff, great t-shirts, great gear. They have stuff that will fit you perfectly, make you feel comfortable on the mat and look good off the mat. Remember, Limitless 20 at checkout for a discount. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today we're hanging out with a fellow East Coast martial arts teammate, Dominic Garrini. He's a BJJ Purple belt and he competes frequently. He's competed a lot. He's won a lot. He's also a professional wrestler and amongst many other things. I'm sure we'll get into that. Good close friend with Chad, known Chad for a very long time, our very own Chad. And actually Chad is the one who promoted you in all your belts, right? Dom, thanks for being with us too, by the way.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it very much, man. So he is, right? Chad
Chad, I started jiu-jitsu back in 2009, April of 2009 with Team East Coast. I think, Chad, you were probably, a blue belt then? Like you had just recently gotten your blue belt for the most part?
2009, I got my purple, I think.
Well, I remember you got your purple belt, I think like later into that year, but I think when
was it later?
When I started, okay. you were still a blue belt. And yeah, Crazy. I mean, I was mainly brought into the gym by former guest to the show, Alex Poinar. I'd wrestled with Alex. I'd wrestled with Alex in high school, and we were pretty good friends, just through going to school together and wrestling together. And he'd always talked about doing jiu-jitsu, and I was always like, that seems like a cool idea. And in the summer when we were in the wrestling room, we would always watch like old Abu Dhabi tapes and just try to do what they did on old Abu Dhabi tapes. In hindsight, what a terrible misguided idea, as we were grabbing each other's feet and twisting them awkward ways and just wrenching on people's necks. But I finally decided to start training there in about April of 2009. And it's kind of been ever since. And for sure, one of probably the biggest constant during that training has always been Chad.
Nice.
Yeah, we've had some good times, to say the least, right?
We've had a lot of times. I mean, one of the great stories I always like to remember is, we used to live by each other, Terry, Chad, and I, and a lot of times in those lean days, I would call it, like those 2010 through 2012 days, me and Chad, neither of us had very much money at the time. And there were times where literally we would pay for each other's gas tanks so we could go to training. Nice. I remember that. I just remember that. Yeah. So
that was actually one of the things I was going to talk about. We talk about the team and the family and all that stuff. And, I went through some tough stuff in 2009 and Dom always helped me out. And when he needed, I helped him out. And, that's what we do.
Yeah. And that's, and that's really what, we've always been about at the gym, that's kind of the idea that Mr. Hyman instilled upon us. He instilled upon us that no one was above the team, that we were always, better as a team, and that, we were a family. And I think that anybody who comes in our gym now sees that kind of family atmosphere. I'm sure you've seen it, coming in, Terry, and training with us.
Yeah, 100%. And I've shared this before on the show, is that, when I started my journey in jiu-jitsu, my first approach was I wanted to see who I was, like test myself and kind of go. I never expected to have you guys as like friends and close contacts like I do. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go and get a family of brothers and sisters that practice something that you love. And to tell people on the outside, like they don't understand that until you do that, especially at our gym. Like our gym really embraces people, really helps coaches, teaches, and takes everyone under their wing, and we get after it. And it's just so, I love it. I mean, it's awesome because of that reason. It's like, oh man, I've gained a family more than I just did training in jiu-jitsu. And that's not something a lot of people may ever expect to do this. And I'm suspecting, because the jiu-jitsu community is so small, as we've talked about this before, is that kind of happens because everyone kind of knows what you go through from a journey standpoint. And you guys had a great man teach you guys, with Mr. Hyman, he really instilled a lot of greatness in you guys. And it shows in both, Chad's coaching and the way he treats people, and even seeing you coach, Dom, when you're there and getting to experience that with you. It's like, yeah, I can tell that these guys had great people before them to pass the torch onto them, so to speak, and give them, great direction. I love it. I mean, it's great. So yeah, spot on with like the family thing and like my perspective of it.
Yeah, and I think that's always been, like I said, it's always something that Steve was. And I mean, like I've told Chad this a lot over the past couple months, the gym was always in so much flux, once Steve had gotten sick and, he eventually passed. Sure. And I really think that, what Chad's done over the last, time since Steve's passed if Steve could see it now, he'd be so proud of everything Chad's created there. The team atmosphere, the environment, the facility, everything about it. I think that, it's everything that Steve ever wanted out of the gym, and to be so happy with it.
Well, and it's something that I've found easy because of how he showed me to continue that, I guess, without even knowing that. It's where most people, I think, when you come in their gym, they want to prove their program. Like, we're good at jiu-jitsu. The first thing I want when you walk in is a good atmosphere and cool people. And then you'll take a class and be there for a little bit and be like, oh yeah, they're good at jiu-jitsu too, or they're good at karate, or whatever program you want to take. I want that atmosphere first, because Dom can tell you, he's been around. There's some gyms you go into and it's a scrap as soon as you walk in. And that's okay, but I want the latter first, you know what I mean? The better thing first.
Yeah. And here's one of the things that I'll say. And I tell this to anybody who talks about starting jiu-jitsu, or even now, because I teach pro wrestling too, the hardest thing about doing any combat sport is just stepping in the door for the first time. Because usually anybody who's getting ready to do this is very scared. Inherently jiu-jitsu is a scary art to think about, because you're thinking, I'm going to walk in this door and somebody's going to choke me or try to break my arm or do something. And if you come in and everybody's scrapping and you're this like this prawn and you don't know what to do, and you're going with sharks and you're just getting ate the whole time, it's no fun. That scary feeling, you're overwhelmed. And then you're like, you know what? I don't think I'm coming back. And it's so important to have that feeling of like, I can do this and I can belong. And, even though I'm the nail now, at some point I'll become the hammer that beats the nails down, but helps those nails and helps teach them and helps guide them along the way.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And that's our gym for sure. Definitely that way. It's no arm breakers right away.
No. Well,
it's a couple months.
I mean, that's might need some people to stay off the thumbs, homie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, old Pat, good old. So that story is, we used to put together some sessions on Fridays where it'd be like, hey, so and so, we're gonna get together, we're gonna roll, and it'd be like anywhere between like 4 to 5 people. Usually never anything too big. And one of the members of the gym, I will leave him nameless, rolled with Pat Schottenheimer, who is a very large guy. He's like 230, pretty solid muscle guy. Pat's a blue belt at the time. And Pat has a very interesting temper, to say the least. And this guy keeps on attacking Pat's thumbs. So Pat ends up getting I think he had got like a front choke or something, just like really wrenched it, got up, takes his gi off, or pretty much takes his gi off, and goes, "Stay off my thumbs, homie." And everybody just stopped, and everybody just laughed so hard. And that poor guy, he learned to stay off Pat's thumbs that night.
Yep. And he's still part of the team.
And he is still part of the team. Yep.
Yep. I've said before when we've told that story, if I could have any moment on video, that is the one I would want. That is the one I would want.
That's so awesome.
Gosh. It was amazing.
So good.
And good. To paint the picture of Pat, I mean, Pat's a big, strong guy. So yeah, that's funny. Like, just to see Pat, because he's not very
level-headed.
Oh yeah, he's pretty level-headed. He's not very. I mean, anytime I've ever
gotten
with him,
he's gotten less vocal in his years. Let's put it that way. He used to be very vocal.
Yeah.
Well, did he do MMA at the same time? Okay, at that point, was he doing MMA then, Dom?
No, at that point he was pretty much done. So in Ohio MMA, if you're over the age of what, 40, right, Pat, or right, Chad?
I think it's 35.
If you're over 35, you have to just go through a litany of tests to get approved to fight. And Pat never had a problem with those tests, but once you go through those tests, then it's the problem of, well, they try to match you with another person around your age, and finding someone 205 that's 35 that had the kind of martial arts background that Pat had was always tough, and he'd always have a hard time finding fights, and then it just became too much of a burden at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a couple good fights though. Is he 2-1?
He was 2-1. Maybe? He was 2-1, and the one loss was a split decision, a very close fight.
Yeah, and you got to remember, Terry, you've seen Pat as he is now. He fought at 205.
Yeah, it's wild to me. I saw some pictures of him before when he was in a cage, just and I'm just like, wow, like he's not that he looks great now, even now, and I know he's been working towards lowering his weight and all that kind of stuff, lately and stuff.
For sure,
so he looks fantastic. But you see him at 205, and you're like, yeah, geez, man, like he's a solid as a rock 205 too. Like he looks great. So that's wild. Dom, you trained Alex, didn't you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we got some great Alex stories. Holy cow.
I thought so. Because when we had Alex on, he talked about that a little bit. And, you were a huge part of his, obviously East Coast and Chad and, training and doing all that. And you were a huge part of, getting him into MMA.
We were a massive start. We were like a massive part of like him getting started in MMA. I mean, I used to go over to Alex's house, when we were in high school and watch like every UFC together. And I don't think at that point, Alex, at that point was very, set towards wrestling in college, and that was where he wanted to do. It was everything that he wanted to kind of be. And then I remember he went to Mount, and we might have told the story. And I think that while Alex is a very smart guy, he's not I'm going to sit in a classroom and learn kind of smart guy.
Sure.
He's a very bright individual. So he was really struggling with classes at Mount. And I remember I came over to his house and we had a conversation. I said, Alex, you don't have to go to college and be a college wrestler. Like, you're very good at jiu-jitsu already. You have your karate background. You have a very strong wrestling background. You very much could, go right in MMA. I think that was kind of like where he made the decision that he wanted to do it. And at that point, it was kind of getting him ready for all of his fights. And I remember getting him ready for his first fight. And he did his first 2 fights down in he did one fight in Mansfield, and that was a quick one where he put the kid to sleep real quick with a really good north-south choke. And then was his second fight the Yankee Lake fight, the infamous Yankee Lake fight that me, Feller, and Stinson cornered him in?
In a snowstorm, right?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so we didn't even want to take this fight, okay? I remember I told Alex, I said, let's just wait to take one in, Canton. Let's wait to take one in Akron. Let's wait to take one in Mansfield. No, got to take it at Yankee Lake. Yankee Lake, for anybody who's not, very geographically sound, is pretty much on the Pennsylvania border. And of course, it's like the week before Thanksgiving. So it's, unpredictable Ohio weather. We get up there and starts snowing. And it's like, oh, great. This was also at a time in Alex's career when he was not good at cutting weight yet. Like he was pretty bad at cutting weight. So he cut a metric, like shit ton of weight, The venue is literally right next to right next to a Quaker Steak. So that's where we go and we eat after. And, the corner when it's amateurs is 2. So it was me and Stinson. Feller was pretty much a corner right outside the barricades as he was helping us out. But Alex fought a really tough guy out of Pennsylvania. His name was Jeff Mock. Had a lot of the similar like mat skills to Alex in terms of like jiu-jitsu and stuff. And I remember the very first thing that happened in the fight was Alex got popped with a hard jab, broke his nose. Very first thing on the fight. And it was almost like at that point, he kind of forgot how to wrestle and he lost the first round. Comes back to the corner and Stinson goes in the cage at the end of the first round. And I will always remember Alex pouring the bucket out in the cage to get more time, and Stinson being so mad at him and yelling at him. He's like, what the hell? You got a tire bucket. How you missed the bucket? And I knew what he was doing. So Stinson, was trying to get what he needed stand-up wise up. He gets a couple takedowns in the second. Pretty close fight. I myself think we've lost both rounds. And I look at Stinson as the clacks go for the round, and I tell Tim, I said, I'm going in for this round. So I take the bucket. I don't even bring him a stool. I make him stand. I give him some water and I say, hey, I said, it's up to you, man. I said, we're down 2 rounds right now. I said, you can either continue to get pieced up on the feet right now, or you can remember that you're a really good wrestler and that you want to be undefeated. I said, so we need to take him down and we need to get a finish. And sure enough, you know, he got after it, wrestled, and we got that rear naked choke in the third. He got the rear naked choke in the 3rd round. And wouldn't fate have it, as we're driving home, we get hit with yet another massive snowstorm where we can't see in front of us. So that was there was that, you know, we think Alex had another Mansfield fight. And then he had the Thanksgiving Eve fight where he cut weight poorly once again and was very terribly dehydrated in the locker room at the end of the fight. And he's like asking Stinson for like potato chips or something. And we couldn't get anything. So all we get was a salt shaker. And he makes Stinson pour the salt in his hand and he's laughing it out of Stinson's hand like a puppy dog. And I remember Stinson just being so mad. But, you know, I'm real happy and proud of Alex for everything he's doing. Him and I have kind of always talked about being kind of relentless dream chasing individuals. And, you know, there's one thing I can never take away from Alex, and that's that he's relentlessly gone and chased his dream. You know, I know he just lost a couple weeks ago, but, you know, you're never going to go undefeated. Even the world champion lost at some point, unless you're Khabib, I guess. Sure. But, you know, you've got to have those losses to kind of reset yourself, get back to the basics, and remind you of who you are. So I think that as long as he keeps his head on that straight and narrow, you know, he's got that championship mindset. He's just got to, you know, put it all into action.
Yeah, his mindset's already there, you know, just from talking to him and, you know, rolling with him when he's in town and stuff at the gym. And, you know, I've even told him before, it's like, you know, you're not going to succeed unless you fail. There's got to be some kind of failure in everything. Absolutely. And, you know, whether it's small, big or whatever, but if you have a good mindset, it's okay, because you're going to be able to take that failure and you're just going to be able to really build on it and really put yourself in like great positions in order to do things. And, you know, in life in general, just, you know, even when he's done doing all this and, you know, whatever he wants to do, you know, so you guys did you guys wrestle together in high school?
We would miss each other by about a year.
Okay.
So Alex is 4 years younger than me. So Alex was on the middle school team when I was a senior, and then I coached Alex.
Okay. Okay, cool. Very cool.
Yeah, so we kind of have like for a while, like that was the whole kind of connection. There was like this like Hoover wrestling connection that kind of ran through East Coast with like Alex brought me in, I brought Shannon in. Shannon ended up bringing in Hartzell, and then through Walsh, Shannon brought in Stinson, and you know it was always kind of a he knows him, who knows him, who knows him, who knows him, and it all kind of, you know. Yeah,
we had a big crowd. Don't forget about Sam. Had Sam in for a while.
How could I forget my buddy Sam? I miss Sam.
I know.
Miss Sam.
Yeah, we had quite the young crew for a while.
Oh yeah,
a ton of guys.
All wrestlers too, huh?
Most of them, except Hartzell, but he was an athlete. He was an athlete, but and Feller. Who could not forget Feller?
How can I forget Feller?
Yeah. So yeah, we had a crazy group for a while. But we'll talk about Dom. Dom competed a lot. So how many matches? How many matches you think you've had, Dom?
Oh my gosh! So I got asked this. So when I got signed to MLW, they asked me like, so how many competitive jiu-jitsu matches would you say you had? I ballpark it around 200 at least.
That's what I was thinking.
I would say at least 200 because I started competing a couple months after I started training in 2009.
Yeah.
And honestly, I competed from 2009 until 2015 pretty consistently. I mean, especially like, let's say the years 2011 through 2014, early 2015, like those 3-4 years, I was competing almost every weekend, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would say 200 is probably a good guesstimate.
That's crazy.
That's a lot. It's a ton, man.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, and it's a lot different now, and Chad will attest to this. Now it's like, okay, you have Grappling Industries this weekend, you have Naga the next weekend, you have, you know, Toledo this weekend, you have
Fuji.
Fuji. Yeah. You have so many tournament circuits. It was not that way when I was competing for the most part.
You were driving further.
Okay.
I was driving anywhere and everywhere to go compete. And like very like it was I'd be pumped to have a Columbus tournament at that point. Like,
right. Like I want to stay
very
close.
Excited. Yeah. Like
2 hours is nothing.
yeah. 2 hours was like, oh, I don't have to rent a car. I can use my own crappy Chevy Cavalier to get there. Cool.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, the tournament circuit was completely different. Like there were no fight to wins when I was initially starting to compete. There was no who's number ones. There was none of this. Like a lot of what, I was competing for was just kind of like quasi self vanity and like, to test myself at that point. There was no money involved really. I mean, if anything, it was a large money loser, if anything.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's like it's like that scene in Wayne's World where Wayne is like talking about his jobs and he's like, I have a great collection of hats and hairnets. To me, like that was what my medals were. It was like, I have this great collection of pot medals that no one knows what the hell they are.
Right.
But no, I mean, I jumped headfirst in competing. Like when I started jiu-jitsu, I don't think I ever thought I was going to like do competitive jiu-jitsu. I was like, I'm going to fight MMA. Like I was like every other dude that started jiu-jitsu in 2009. Like I watched every episode of The Ultimate Fighter. I watched every UFC. I had 17 tap out shirts. I had some Affliction shirts, and I was badass, But no, and then a lot of my time with Chad when I started, he started showing me competitive jiu-jitsu, especially in the gi, and then I kind of shifted into what I wanted to be, and I kind of was like, oh, this is really cool. And then like I would watch like these tournament videos he had of like the Pan Ams and the Worlds, and I'd see these environments, and it reminded me of amateur wrestling, but on a different level of like something that I thought I could be good at. Because I always kind of say this, like my athletic genes didn't kick in until I was at least 21. Like I was like, in Chad, I'll tell you this, when I came in the gym, I was like a chubby 19-year-old kid who was not athletic whatsoever. And, just through kind of working and sticking with it, I tapped into that athleticism that was hidden in my body.
Sure.
So like, I kind of like started to shift towards wanting to be a competitive jiu-jitsu guy. And then I think it was once we kind of hooked up with New Breed and I did that first Chicago Open, that I was kind of like, okay, I'm all in on doing this now.
Yeah. And, like you said, you did tap into some athletic things, but also you were always a hard worker from day one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's one thing that you didn't have to really get on Dom when it was time was to drill, to let's go. Now in class, I bust his balls a little bit. Like, come on, Dom, let's go.
Oh yeah.
But he's a purple belt and they don't do warm ups or drill. So
I knew that was coming.
I knew that was coming. But again, he's really grown in that fact. Like when he said he started, what'd you weigh when you started, Dom? Probably what you weigh now, but way different.
Probably what I weigh now. I was probably 235, 240, but like the 235 I am now is completely different because now I actually like when I was 240 and I came into to East Coast, down here on
wasn't
Fulton at that time. No, it was like in McDonald's every day. Like I was like, oh, hey, I have a break between class right now because I was in college at the time. I was like, let's go to the student union. Let's pound a couple Pepsis and let's do whatever. It was like I wasn't watching what I ate at all, and like wasn't lifting like at all. Like now I'm like 235, but like I watch what I eat for the most part. I lift and like I work out pretty consistently. I'm also a man. I'm also 31.
You're grown. Yeah, you're grown now.
You're also grown, right?
I'm also a man now.
Puberty hit and you're good.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like I said, like we were talking. Actually, it's funny. I made that Pepsi line. Little known fact, Terry. Chad, back when I started Jiu-Jitsu, dude was addicted to Pepsi.
He tells me this. He goes, dude, I used to drink like multiple 20-ounce bottles like dude, all day.
He would have. So we used to have a cooler in the gym, and he would have a Pepsi in there waiting for him after he rolled.
Yeah.
Now, to your credit, Chad, supposedly that's the best time to drink like a Pepsi or like a Coke is after you do like a really hard workout like jiu-jitsu or that, because like your body needs that sugar. So
sugar depletion.
That's why I did it. Yeah. Exactly, that's why I was doing it.
We're going to roll with that.
You go.
Yeah.
But no. And like, and I think like we did that first Chicago Open. It was me, you, and Shannon. And like, I think it was just like the entire experience of that weekend of being with you guys and like the team feeling. And it was so cool. And I wanted to do that, more and more. And I think that like when I started, I thought that Shannon was going to be all in on doing that with me.
Right.
He was not.
Right. Yeah.
He, and I love Shannon to death. He's one of my best friends. I was in the guy's wedding. But I think that, his prior time role or his prior time in wrestling And the hard driving with that made it seem that he didn't want to compete as much anymore. And I didn't have that. Like, I played football in high school and like, I was not good at high school wrestling. I just did it to hang out with Shannon and my friends. So it wasn't like that. I didn't have a dad pushing me to do it or anything like that. So I could see why, like, you know, especially after that first set of Chicago Opens. Also, I think that was when Shannon started having knee issues. But, you know, I immersed myself really into the game. And then, you know, I was traveling out to Chicago a lot to train. I was, you know, training as much as I could here. And it was a lot of like, just a lot of everything. And I think jiu-jitsu started picking up a lot of steam at that time for sure. It started getting entirely more popular, whether it be, I think, the advent of the Joe Rogan podcast, whether it be the continual growth, the continual growth of, you know, the UFC. But yeah, I mean, everything kind of started to go up and I started to compete a lot. And I think that was my identity for a while, for sure.
Yeah. And the more I think about it, you said like that, it kind of had that wrestling feel, right? Anybody that's never been to a big tournament, IBJJF, I've never been to the Worlds or Pans like Dom has, but I've been to Chicago Open, which is a pretty big tournament. And it's at a big place and you're down in. So it kind of feels like that arena type thing, like like pro wrestling,
like
right?
Pro wrestling, like amateur wrestling, like both. Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it's different. Yeah. Again, Dom's been at a different level than I've seen at the Worlds and at Pans, which I can't imagine.
It's engulfing.
I mean, he's
Pans and Worlds.
Yeah. I mean, he's witnessed some serious matches in live.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I remember watching Buchecha and Rodolfo live. And like, I mean, here's the thing about that some people might not understand is when they do that black belt open class final, like that match, that's at like 10 p.m. West Coast Standard Time on a Sunday night. And no one's leaving. Everybody's staying to watch that. And the crazy thing is most people have like early morning flights the next day, or they have red eyes that night. Like they're leaving literally from the Pyramid in Walter or the Walter Pyramid in Long Beach, and they're going right to LAX to catch their flights home, you know, and do whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's like one of those crazy environments. You have all the Brazilians there, like they're doing all the team chants. It's one of those things that like if you do jiu-jitsu, it's like you don't have to go and compete, but like
go and experience it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the experience is awesome.
Yeah. Dom, tell Terry what Gabby Garcia looks like in person, because he's seen her in person.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you have, Dom. You've seen her in person before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Like she's as big as you think she is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 110%.
Yeah.
She is. Like, I remember Pat used to always joke around that he could be like, he's like, oh, I could beat her. And then I met Gabby and I was like, I came back from the world. I think it was the Worlds. I was like, no, you couldn't. I was like, no, like she got on top of you and she'd make you cry. I was like, she's that big. Like she's Pat's size.
Sure.
Yeah,
she's probably bigger than maybe not now that she's cut weight, but like, I mean, you look at it like when she's doing those Risen fights in Japan, she's cutting weight to like 215 pounds.
Right.
Yeah.
So she is. Gabby Garcia is a large woman.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. She's very, very big.
So Dom, with all the matches you've done jiu-jitsu wise, do you think it's been good or bad? Probably both for your jiu-jitsu. I guess it depends what your goals are.
It depends what your goals are. For me, one thing I will always say, and this is also a pro wrestling thing, I am better in a competition-based setting. I am better, and I will show what I know better, I believe, in a match, in a tournament, or like when I'm in pro wrestling, I can do it better in an actual match than I can, you know, in the training room. And I don't know why that is. It's just, this is the exact opposite for a lot of other people. The lights go on and they shut down.
Yeah.
But for me, the lights go on and like, I guess I just zone in and I kind of tune everything else out.
Does it help to have like the surrounding of the people and stuff though? Like that for you, Dom, like you feed off that. Like,
I think I do. I think that I do. And I think that's I think it's a large reason why I've been as successful as I've been in pro wrestling.
Sure.
And I'm sure we can delve into that in a second.
Oh yeah, sure.
But back to Chad's question of, I think it helped me for a while in terms of it kept me very motivated. It kept me very straight lined. It kept me going into class. It kept me there. But I think it hurt me in certain ways because inherently to be a competitor, you have to be selfish. You have to be only looking out for yourself, or if you have like a group of people, you're only looking out for that small group of people. And I think that really hindered me in that regard. I definitely think that for probably 4 years, all I cared about was like me and my very small group of friends. And I didn't care about the gym as a whole, and there's a larger thought in your brain that makes you think, well, I'm putting this patch on my back and I'm representing the team. So yeah, I'm helping the gym out, but I'm not helping the gym out in the ways that probably the gym needed to be helped out in. I wasn't fostering white belts, into learning jiu-jitsu. I wasn't fostering them into, sometimes the positive environment that's needed to nurture people to be long-term members of a gym, to, take that journey from white belt to black belt. I think that, sometimes I was just thinking about who's my training partners, how good are they, and what can I do? And I think that that's a completely wrong theory. And now, obviously 2021, I can see that completely differently than I did in 2015 or 2014. In 2014, it was go out and win every role, even in training, because I have to get ready for this tournament. But now I look at it like this. I go out and I stomp a brand new white belt, or I stomp a 2-stripe white belt. Okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. How did I get better by doing that? And how did that white belt get better by doing that? And I really think that John Danaher's kind of got the idea figured out. He talks about on, any of the Litany podcasts he does, how, he makes guys like Gary Tonin only train bad positions with lower ranks, like that lower rank starts in a fully locked armbar, that lower rank starts in a fully locked rear naked choke, and they have to fight from there. And it forces them, A, to tap, and B, it will also teach them to get out. And then, let's say the white belt taps me from giving them a fully locked choke. Well, now that white belt has a little bit of confidence, they just tapped a purple belt. They don't necessarily know that, hey, they had this great position and they didn't necessarily get there, but they start that confidence and they say, well, okay, well, how do I work to that position? Things like that. And like I said, I really think that was probably the way it hindered my jiu-jitsu back in the day, was that it didn't make me a good teammate. It actually made me a pretty shitty teammate.
Yeah, I get that. And, Dom did this because it's what he had to. You have to know the rules. You have to know the points, right? But Dom would get up after rolling with you and be like, 4-2, I won. And people are like, man, Dom's a dick.
Yep.
Like what,
Yep. But, and I knew, and that's the only thing that probably hindered my jiu-jitsu game back, was I was so patterned to those IBJJF rules from 2012 through 2015 for 3 straight years. I could tell you every little nook and cranny of every role I had at the gym and a night and tell you, okay, this would have been an advantage, that would have been an advantage. And I counted that. And to be honest with you, I worried more about points than I ever did getting submissions. And I think that hurt me, because I probably should have been more worried about, getting my jiu-jitsu game better overall in point, instead of how can I win this match 4-2 with one advantage,
Yeah, but that's that game though. Mm-hmm. I mean, it or not, that's that game at times.
Absolutely.
And we'll get into wrestling in a minute, but I want you to tell the story about.
I know which one you're going with.
Tom got to compete against Andrew Wiltsey.
Oh no!
When
you
he
didn't go to the store. You didn't go to the store I thought you were going with, but go ahead.
We'll go to another one. But Tom got to compete against Wiltsey.
Oh my God!
Blue belt.
Well, this is actually the perfect transition to wrestling, actually. So
true.
Good call. Okay, so I remember this would have been 2015 Pan Ams. And this was I was pretty patterned in okay, I could place this year. Like if the draw's right, I could place this year. And about 2 weeks before the Pan Ams, we did, nope. Okay. So about 2 weeks before the Pan Ams, Respect was one of the first kind of jiu-jitsu super fight organizations that was doing lower ranked super fights. And one of my teammates, Teody, was fighting Andrew Wiltsey. And I was like, okay, well, I might fight this kid. I never really looked at white belt results. That was another thing I looked at when I was blue belt at the time. So I looked and I saw Teody got submitted by Wiltsey. Also, Teody is a featherweight. I was competing at middleweight at the time. And I remember I went out to Pans, and my first match got this really awkward flying triangle that I couldn't believe I got. Also, I think I'd had maybe one triangle my entire jiu-jitsu career at that point. And a guy just shot a single leg on me, and I just jumped up a triangle and I got it, and no one could believe it. So I was feeling really good. I was hell yeah, this is great. And then I remember Mark coming up to me hey, that guy's tough. He's the guy beat Teody at Respect. I had this game plan, and Mark lays this game plan out. And I was okay, I feel good. If I beat this guy, it's 3 more after this, and I'm placing. And this is one of my ultimate goals. At Pans as a blue belt, which is at middleweight is entirely impossible. It's 120 man division, single elimination.
Wow.
Match after match, right after on top of each other, boom, boom, boom. And I was okay, I feel good. And I remember I touched up with Andrew and I pulled guard and I felt the knee slide through as quickly as I've ever felt a knee slide through my guard. And this mind is rolling with like the Souza brothers, mind you, rolling with like JT Torres, rolling with all kinds of black belts. And I just got my guard passed in literally seconds. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? And next thing I know, he's moving. And I don't know what's going on. And I'm just getting destroyed. I'm like, what is happening? And every grip, he's so strong on the grips and he's so fast. I'm like, this is unreal. So I think I swept him, but it was more of like, he went for a submission. I got on top. I got 2. At this point, I look at the scoreboard. I think it was like 25-2 at this point. And I was like, whoa. So I go to sweep or I go to pass. I got nothing. I get swept. At this point, I'm just like, this is not going to get any better. I was like, and he kept on getting me in submissions and like, I could like fight through and like, he'd go on to something else. I was like, you know what? I could survive this. I really could. It was like 35-2 at the time. But I was like, I thought about it. I remember being at the Worlds like the year before and I watched a dude literally get beat like 97-2. Yeah. And I said, I never wanted to be that guy. And I never want to be that guy that was like, well, you know, I could have caught him, because no, you couldn't have caught him. You were getting like just mopped. So I think I just like gave him like my arm and I got armbarred. I got submitted. And I was like, okay. And I remember looking at the board. It was like 35-2. And I was like, holy shit. And I remember like going and like sitting in the bullpen and I was just like, it's American kid. Because usually it was like the Brazilians that would do this to you. Like, it's this American kid from like rural Illinois, just ruined my life. And I said, at that point, I said, maybe, just maybe, this isn't what I think I can do. And maybe I'm not going to win a world title. And I remember I went and I did the Chicago Open after, because I think the Chicago Open was a couple weeks after the Pans, which is very rare, but usually it was always before. Yeah. And I remember I went out and I won the Chicago Open. I did really well. I won it in gi and no-gi. And like, that was one of my other big goals. And then I remember at that point, I think I thought I was going to get my purple belt. And I was like, cool. Like, if I get my purple belt, I'll probably take some time off competing and this and that. And then I remember I didn't get my purple belt. And I was pretty much told, you're going to do the Worlds of blue belt one more time. And I was like, okay. I was like, I guess I will. And I went out and I lost to a guy literally named Anderson Silva in the first round. His namesake of the UFC champion. He ended up getting third. And I remember sitting in the back, like the kind of like backstage area. I snuck into like some locker room of some sorts to where I could take a shower, because like they didn't tell us where we could go take showers. And I remember I just sat there and I said, you know what? I said, maybe everything I've done over the past 4 years, while it's been beneficial for me, maybe it's not the path that I thought I was on. Maybe like a world championship at adults just not going to happen for me, no matter how hard I work. Because I, at that point, felt like I'd worked more than hard enough to do those things. And I just was like, you know what? I was like, I'm going to reassess. And I remember I had a week off. Like in Chicago, I watched Mark's house while he went on vacation. And then I flew home. And I think at that point, I was like, you know what? I just don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm definitely just like going to slow myself down from competing. And the story, as I always tell on every pro wrestling podcast, is I went to Monday Night Raw, of all things. I took Shannon with me. And I was like really into this guy. His name is Kevin Owens. And I watched Kevin Owens before I even knew what jiu-jitsu was, be a pro wrestler, like on the independent level. And I thought it's really cool that he's on Raw and he's like doing like these cool like angles with like Machine Gun Kelly, like power backing him off the stage. I said, I always wanted to be a pro wrestler. Maybe I'll give this a shot. And that was like, what happened? Would have been June of 2015. And by August of 2015, I was training to be a pro wrestler.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's very cool. Yeah. Kevin Owens he's a pretty cool cat too.
Yeah.
Canadian,
and
right?
Yes, very Canadian. And he's Canadian, I've actually gotten the chance to eat dinner with him and he's, shared some really cool like Twitter DMs with me when, I haven't been in the right, frame of space. And he's a really cool guy who didn't have to do a lot of that stuff and was really awesome. So yeah. And then I started my pro wrestling journey and it's been very successful for me. And I think a lot of the reason for my success in pro wrestling has been a lot of the lessons that I picked up from jiu-jitsu. It's been a lot of just, ways of like ingraining myself into it, like within jiu-jitsu and things like that. I think jiu-jitsu, if without jiu-jitsu, And I always think this joke that, I could have been a pro wrestler when I was 16, like I thought, but I really think that had I not had, my jiu-jitsu journey, I wouldn't have been nearly as successful at pro wrestling as I've been at this point.
Sure. And it's helped you, obviously. I mean, jiu-jitsu has played a huge part in you. Like, Dom, what would you say jiu-jitsu means to you then?
Honestly, jiu-jitsu's kind of meant everything to me. When I walked in the East Coast as a 19-year-old chubby kid, I was really kind of searching for purpose. Like, I think at that time I thought my purpose was going to be being a high school sports coach. And honestly, jiu-jitsu kind of gave me a new lease on life. Jiu-jitsu kind of taught me to kind of relentlessly dream big. And I had this discussion with Stinson probably back in January-ish, where he said that he will always respect guys like myself and Alex because we had dreams and we've never given up on them. And, we don't plan on giving up on them. And I think jiu-jitsu in its own right is a dream, and we get to live that dream weekly. Very, very, very few sports you do you get to do your entire life. You play football in high school, you probably play 4 years of football in high school and you're done. Maybe you get to play a couple years of semi-pro after you're done. You play baseball. Okay. Maybe you play beer league, for some years after that.
Sure.
You play basketball, maybe you play Y ball, or you play in these like pickup leagues with your boys. But think about it. Is there anything like, you could do jiu-jitsu, and you could do jiu-jitsu at a relatively high level for 30 to 40 plus years, as well. And Chad has said this before, you can get to actually, meet and train with your superstars.
Yeah.
Let's make it this way. Let's put it this way. Ain't no one's getting to do play one-on-one or do shoot around with LeBron James very often.
Yeah.
Unless you're, sadly, unless like you're a Make-A-Wish kid, then you get to do it. Okay.
Right, exactly.
But like, it's possible for Chad or me tomorrow to go on a plane and go to California and go train with the Mendez brothers. I trained with Cobrinha. I've trained with JT Torres. I've trained with some of the best in the world. And you just don't get to do that in other sports. You just really don't.
There's no sport.
Yeah, and that's part of what makes jiu-jitsu so stinking cool, man. And jiu-jitsu teaches you a little bit of everything about life. Jiu-jitsu really in its own way is life, because in jiu-jitsu, you're going to get put into situations that are going to be good and that are going to be bad. And you have to learn how to navigate the good to make it better. You have to learn how to navigate the bad to get yourself into the good. And I really think that, like I said, it's life. One of the things I've always said about jiu-jitsu is its peaks and valleys. The highest of the peaks, the lowest of the valleys. Did I say that right?
The highest peak, the lowest is the valleys.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Highest peaks, lowest valleys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's life. Very rarely do you see someone go along life straight line. It's never like that. You have awesome moments in life, you have terrible moments in life.
Yes.
And, it's how you're going to come up and how you're going to fall and how you're going to go here and how you're going to go there. And I really think that jiu-jitsu is life in that regard.
Right on. That's perfect. I mean, that's exactly, all of that, everything you said, like, good on you, man, for like, you have that mental state. And I know this just from talking to you in the gym and, hearing you talk and even coaching other guys or just sitting, on the side and watching you coach the younger guys and whatnot. Since I'm an older guy, I can still be coached, but just I'm an old guy. So.
No, it's okay. A lot of times the older guys take coaching better than the young guys.
Sure. And that's kind of how I am, because I'm totally open to all the bad. It's like, hey, I'm okay with it. Like, if I'm going to roll against, I don't care who you are, what rank you are. It's like, look, I'm in this to learn something as I'm doing this. I'm not just going to be like crap. Like, there are times where I'm more hard on myself. You know what I mean? Like, mentally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, crap. Like, I know better than that. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? But other than that.
And that's another thing about jiu-jitsu is like, there are going to be nights where you're going to be like that. I can tell you there's many nights where I was getting ready for a tournament and I had a terrible night and I would go in my car and I would cry because I was just so beat up mentally over, man, I can't beat these guys in the gym. How am I going to go? Why am I spending $600 to go to New York to go and compete? Sure. Things like that. Yeah. So, but then, you have good friends, hopefully, and that's one of the things we have great team members. Like, I remember Stinson multiple times coming over and being that guy to help get me off that ledge and say, no, man, you're doing great. You're going to be that guy. I remember Feller being that guy. So a lot of those guys were always there. And like, once again, that comes back to, what we talked about to start with the family,
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, we talked about is it good or bad for your jiu-jitsu, all the competition matches, but I think it's matured you too. And it's let you see both sides. You saw that, I don't want to call it bad side, but that selfish side, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. And now you can look back and reflect on that and be like, you know what, that wasn't that great or whatever,
The good times were good. The bad times were bad. There wasn't a lot in between a lot of times.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think at the point where I'm at right now, like on more of my experience, I'm definitely more in the middle. And I really like being in the middle more than I think I like any of those good times or any of the bad times, really.
Yeah. And that's great. When me and Dom talked throughout the week quite a bit. And when you started saying you were watching jiu-jitsu matches again, I'm like, oh, maybe Dom's back in. And then he said he bought a new gi. I'm like, oh shit. Here we go.
I'm also a degenerate when it comes to stuff like that, like buying like gis and stuff. Like,
well, we're both all in type people.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You're gonna watch it. You're gonna buy stuff. You're gonna, you're in. So then he was watching new matches. I'm like, oh, Dom's back. Here we go.
Yeah, and then of course, I end up with a really weird injury. So, but
I was going to ask you if you've ever experienced any hard injuries or injuries that's capped you off. I mean, Chad and I have talked about it. That's funny you bring it up now.
Well, within jiu-jitsu itself, like there really wasn't many. Like when I was competing a lot, which is wild. The two big ones was I was coaching high school wrestling at the time, and we would Shannon was always coaching with me at the time, as usually. And I remember I went to go do a head and arm throw on a kid, and he slipped out, and my leg was up, and when my leg was up, he fell on my foot, and it snapped my foot back. Oh. And what happened was my big toe on my right foot. It snapped back, and it actually broke the skin down to the bone. Ooh. So I had to get 6 stitches in the webbing of my toe. So that was probably one of the worst injuries. And then I always remember it was a New Year's Eve roll. I believe it was New Year's Eve roll. And this is how I remember, because we went out to eat that night, and we were just doing a bunch of like wrestling, like just like starting on the feet wrestling. And Stinson did some kind of like lat drop type or some kind of carry to me, and his head went right into my AC joint, cracked my AC joint real bad. Wow. I remember like I had to stop, and like this is like 2013, so like I was like training at any and all costs. And I remember like I could barely move my arm. And we all went out to Wasabi that night. And I remember it because it was so funny. It was like, I think it was me, Chad, Brad, Aaron and his wife went.
Broom,
I think. Yeah. And then I want to say somebody else. And I remember like just being like, I can't move my arm. And like, this is so much fun, but it sucks so bad. It was like, it was a good time. But yeah, those were probably my 2 worst injuries. What I'm going through right now is maybe an amalgamation of a lot of jiu-jitsu and wrestling stuff together. I don't know.
Okay.
But so I had an MRI, 2 weeks ago on Thursday. Well, this coming Thursday. I don't know when this will come out, but I have another MRI scheduled tomorrow with contrast. But I've had some numbness on the right side of my body.
Wow.
Which is like, it was fine at first, but when it started to spread kind of down my body more, I was like, okay, well, I need to take care of this. And it turns out that I have like some form of like spinal issue where my spine is actually too big for my spinal column. It's a congenital thing. So it's really weird. So I don't know what's going to go down with that. So they have to go in there and they have to like do another MRI where I have contrast so they can see certain things. Because there's a trauma spot on my spine where they're like, hey, that could be a couple of things. It could be like MS, it could be a tumor, it could just be basic trauma. So once hopefully the bad stuff that I just said, hopefully they can X that stuff out, and then we can kind of go from there and figure out, my like road to recovery and whatever. But yeah, so that's why I've been a little weird, which is actually funny because with the numbness on my right side, I did that Grappling Industries tournament with that issue.
I was going to say, man, because you just competed, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And for everybody out there, he did take second place.
Yeah. So I pretty much I have usage of like these fingers. It's my pinky and my ring on my right hand. But like they've been numb for about 3 weeks now. Almost like they've been asleep and they just haven't woke up. So yeah, I'm hoping to get some answers. Hopefully this week. I have my second MRI scheduled tomorrow, and then I have my follow up with my doctor on Friday.
All right, man.
So, But I will be on Wednesday of this week to at least watch. But it's funny because Chad knows like I'm like a guy that wants to always go in and do everything so much that like when it comes roll time, I have to take my gi off and like put my shirt back on so like I don't find myself doing stuff. Sure. But one of the things that probably back when I was competing, I would be so just angry at the world and like not want to go in. Now, like I want to go in and I want to see the guys, roll. I want to see them, their growth. I want to see how I can help these guys because even if I can't roll, I know over the last 12 years now of doing jiu-jitsu, I've got something that I can help these guys with, something that I can show them, something that I can offer them.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. You being back is a very important part of the gym. I need that as the coach. I need you and Brad and Craddock and, Pete, Pete, yeah, I count Pete up there with me.
Yeah.
The higher ranks that are lower than however you want to say that, but the purple belts and the brown belts, I need you guys, we all do. And with your experience, that's just a bonus, for guys that want to compete. You'd be like, I'm doing this, go talk to Dom about rules or talk to him about points or, whatever.
Yeah. And one of the things I think that I can offer to people, and you can talk to like someone like maybe like a Dan Candery from when he did the grappling industry stuff, is that sometimes that I can like instill upon like a certain like mindset that you can have, when competing, because like it's hard to tell somebody about how to compete when like you haven't competed yourself sometimes, or you haven't done it in a while. Obviously, like I've done it a while, but I've done it enough that I've got that mindset. And like there was definitely like a match that Dan had where he was down and it was like late, and I was just like, hey, I was like, you know what you got to do to win, you got to do this, you got to do this, and Dan gutted through it and he got that win with the move that he needed to go to. And I don't think I told you this, Chad, I said I don't think I was excited about winning any of my matches that day. I was more excited about Dan winning that match and digging deep and finding a way to win that match than I was of anything. And like you can ask Trace, like I was like almost on the mats, like I was like dapping up Dan. I was so excited.
And I think that's where that's where you've arrived as a jiu-jitsu coach person, is when you want more for other people. That's just me as far as a coach. Yeah. I've never been that competitor guy. I did it, but and I used to think that defined my jiu-jitsu, but I know it doesn't anymore.
I think too many people define jiu-jitsu by competition.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, and I'll say this, the best jiu-jitsu players are not always the best competitors.
Nope.
And the best competitors are not always the best jiu-jitsu players. I mean, a really strong amateur wrestler that even had like wrestled at D3 level can go out and run through white belt tournaments, or at least back in the day. I'll tell a story here in a second that I don't think it's that way nearly as the same anymore. But they could run through a white belt tournament without doing a single jiu-jitsu move, win every match 2-0. And then they would think that they were the best because like, hey, I'm winning these medals.
Yeah.
But I think that's changing a little bit because like when I saw Trace's bracket for that Grappling Industries, he had a very, very, very good amateur wrestler, 2-time state champion, 4-time state like placer, wrestled at Ohio State, and he didn't even place in the gi.
Yeah.
Which 6-7 years ago, we're not even talking about that.
Nope.
But I think jiu-jitsu's come so far in terms of the actual art that, if you're a good jiu-jitsu guy that, like actually learns the style, you can shut down wrestlers now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, and Trace, he had a ton of people in his bracket too, didn't he?
30 or something.
Bless Grappling Industries for wanting to give people matches. Bless your souls as a tournament. But guys, if you're gonna have a 20-man like tournament, like just do double elimination.
Double elimination, yeah.
Like everybody gets 2 matches and it's fine. It's totally fine. Like if you go 0-2 and you get subbed in both matches, then you had your 2 matches, you got your experience. We don't need guys having 4 matches in the round robin portion and then a medal round and then an elimination round to get to the medal round and then a medal round. It's just too much.
That's a lot.
It's so much. It's a little overkill. Like, believe me, like I said, and I'm sure back in the day when I was like a 4-stripe white belt and a blue belt, when I would like go 0-2 right away, I would like to have 4 matches.
Right.
But no, now I can see it. It's like, no, it's like tab your 2, learn from that.
Sure.
And it's
Move
like,
on.
great. But I will say for the price that Grappling Industries charges, and you're getting that many matches, what a great
bargain.
deal.
Yeah.
What a great deal.
Absolutely. It was funny when Trace did Naga the next weekend. He texted me and he's like, these guys are up here. He had 14 people in his bracket and they were like, this is a big bracket. And Trace is like, this is nothing.
It's like you should have came to my bracket last weekend.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think he had 30 when he went to Pittsburgh.
Wow.
30-man round robin bracket.
It's gross.
And he's right in that.
Well, and the problem with that too is you have someone like, I think Chase went like 4-1 and didn't really get into the
didn't even
place.
get it.
Yeah.
Because if you end up going against the one guy that went 5-0, you're SOL. And like it also you like the round robins are weird because like my bracket for that tournament was all three guys that placed went 2-1. They all went 2-1, and the problem was we all beat each other.
Yeah.
So I submitted the guy that beat the guy that submitted me, but then that guy didn't have the submissions that we had, so it was a nightmare.
Right.
But
did it feel good to get out there and compete again since you haven't competed?
It did. And you know what? It's funny. I was so through my time in wrestling, a lot of like wrestlers that I've worked with have started jiu-jitsu because of me or because like they've asked me to like start. And there's one guy, his name's Logan. He's down in the Virginia area and he's been doing some tournaments, and he did a tournament yesterday and was like talking to me about it. He goes, this is a really random question. He goes, I got more nervous. He goes, I get more nervous for these jiu-jitsu tournaments than I ever have for a wrestling match. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, even when I did a tournament 2 weeks ago, I said, I was more nervous for that than I've ever been for any wrestling match I've ever had. I was like, whether it be on TV, whether it be on pay-per-view, I've done both, whether it be in Mexico in front of 5,000 people. I said, I was more nervous for those matches last week than I am for anything. I said, I've never not gotten nervous for a jiu-jitsu match. And I just think it's like just a natural nervous energy that I have. And it's good. But once I got out there, once I started rolling, once I started feeling it, it felt really cool. And it was like really cool to be out there again. It was really cool to, hear your teammates cheering you on. It's really cool to just kind of get that vibe in the room for the most part.
Seeing old friends, you saw a lot of old people. People used to.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I saw a lot of people. Like first guy I see when I walked in was Nick Nitria from BJJ, and I was like, "Oh, this guy." Well,
that's awesome.
Did I tell you what Nitria did? Did I tell you what Nitria tried to have him do to me there, Chad?
No.
I didn't tell you this. So he tried to get the guy, because he knows obviously all the Grappling Industries guys, he sets up all the shows. He was trying to get the Grappling Industries guy to come up to me and say, hey, man, we heard that you're actually a professional athlete, so we can't even do pro belt. You got to do the black belt division.
Oh, yeah.
So he tried to get him to do that, but he screwed it up. And then I talked to the guy, and also like they had like moved some of my stuff in my bracket around, but like they were cool. And it was really cool to be back. And I think it was more so I really enjoyed the ride down to the tournament with Jay Stu and Dan, and like I enjoyed coaching Trace. I enjoyed coaching Mike Bush. I enjoyed coaching all these guys. And I think just, being able to compete, be out there with them was just, just a little bit of like the cherry on top of everything.
Sure. And I know that meant a lot to them because I've asked these questions in the gym to them, how was it? And I told them, previously to try to just coach them up. Just, it's kind of in my nature. This is kind of who I am. This is what I do. Like I just coach people in general, but I was trying to tell them, I go pick Dom's brain, pick Dan's brain, pick their brains, Jay Stu's brain as you guys are there. Like, don't feel like you're like on your own because these guys are going to be there right next to you. So they're going to be, I was like, listen to them, just clear your slate and listen to them, pay attention to what they're telling you. They're going to lead you in the right direction. So I thought that was very cool to hear them respond when they came home. And I said, how was it, via disappointment, of maybe not placing or whatever, but the experience obviously was great. And they said, their outcome was, man, if I could just get a little bit more because I was right there, and those guys had me set up right there perfectly. But it's just time and experience, as I would say to those. I was like, hey, it's just time and experience, guys. Just like don't let that get to you. Just listen to obviously the senior belts here, and if you have an opportunity to have like Dom you there, and obviously Chad, we have a team match coming up here soon. That you'll be coaching from the sidelines and everything like that. So, I thought it was cool just to tell you this, like that feedback from them, just talking to them in the gym, that they really, really appreciated you and, that commentary and just the excitement. I think that also helps because like Chad said earlier, you're up, man. Like, it's like you want to see them succeed. And it's such a different feeling when you're like, I'm cool, but I want you to be like great. You know what I mean? And it's like,
absolutely.
like you're at that point now to where it's like, I've been in this game for a very, very long time. And now I want to see other people succeed, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that they succeed. So that's awesome, man. Good on you.
Yeah.
Glad to be your teammate.
And I was thrilled when Dom said he was going down to coach those guys, because it's hard for me with running the gym on Saturdays and family time. And, I used to put jiu-jitsu was always first. Sure. I was going to a tournament. I was doing this. That was what I did. But now I've reprioritized what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So I am going in, in a couple of weeks to help coach the guys, but I'm glad Dom's available to do that when he can.
And the awesome part about that is, like what you said earlier, Chad, is we have guys in the gym that want to do that. They want to be present. Not that you don't, but everyone has obligations. There's going to be times when, sure, Dom's not, available, or there's times when, someone else that has an opportunity, whatever, people are going to step in there. So I think it's good because you've built that family there to where everyone's like, hey, I'll step up. I'll do it. I'll do whatever like we have to do. I think that makes
Dom,
awesome.
that feeling you got when Dan won and gritted it out, that was like when you won by triangle in Chicago. Remember me and Broom going crazy?
Oh my gosh, dude, that's probably one of my favorite jiu-jitsu memories. I was waiting for you to ask my favorite jiu-jitsu memory, and I remember, and that was I fought Broombach from New Breed, and I remember they all thought like I was just gonna get pushed over, and it was whatever. And I remember I'd come out to the tournament with you and Broom. And that was like the big match of like the day for me. Like, I was like, okay, can I beat the teammate? Can I do this? And I remember I didn't think I had won, but I was like, I finished the match caught in a triangle. Right. And I was like, okay. And then I looked and I had 2 advantages to his 1, because he kept the triangle for so long that they didn't get any other points, and we were tied. Right. And they raised my hand. And I remember being like so emotional. I came over and I hugged you and Broom, and I was like almost crying. I was so happy.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's very
that was a great moment.
Sadly, I lost the next round right before medaling. But there was a lot of times where I had big moments like that, and I had big matches where, and this is something that like maybe I didn't know as well as I probably do now. I was like very bad with like, sometimes like I'd had like these big wins. Like that was a big win. I think I drained so much emotion in that match that like by the time my next match came, like I wasn't as up for it as I should be. And then I remember the Summer Open in 2014, I had a match against a guy who'd won it the previous year, and he was beating by like 4 points with like 45 seconds left. And I remember I swept past and got the back all on it, all in like one swipe, like one swoop. And I was like fired up. And then I remember the next match I lost in the placement round, and I was like, shit. But like, I think that's another thing that like competing sometimes can teach you how to do, is better manage that emotion, that adrenaline dump and that emotion, which I'm better at now at 31 than I was at 25 and 24 and 23.
Yeah, for sure.
Experience helps too. Like constantly having that feeling and then being able to, work through that feeling. So yeah, that's very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, very cool. So I'm going to circle back to something. We talked about, what Chad has done for East Coast, and, like what Steve Hyman, Mr. Hyman has instilled in both you guys, because Dom, you had a relationship with Mr. Hyman as well, right? Mm-hmm. You knew him, right? And, you've heard this stuff before. So what, this is going to be a 2-part question, because I'm gonna put both you guys on the spot. I already Chad knows this stuff, and you've listened to the show before, I'm sure, Dom. But what did Mr. Hyman mean to you, and then leading that in, what does Chad mean to you?
Oh, that's a good one. For me,
get my tissues real quick.
For me, For me, Steve was like a second dad. I have a very good dad. My dad's pretty awesome. Has always been very supportive of almost anything and everything I've done in my life. But me and my dad are 2 completely different humans. My dad raised me to be different than him because he didn't want me to have the same pitfalls that he had He didn't want me to be a laborer. My dad's been a concrete laborer since he was 16. The last thing he wanted for his son was for him to have the same rough life that he had. My dad's biggest goal for me in life was to enjoy my life and have fun. And even that includes some things that he didn't understand. And jiu-jitsu was one of those things. So Steve was like a surrogate second father for me when I met him in 2009. And honestly, any young guy my age around that time, it'd be hard for Steve to not be a second father to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he took guys like myself, Alex, Shannon, Timmy, under his wing and kind of showed us how to be martial artists. And he really helped develop us into the men that we became. I definitely was like too much of a little shit sometimes when I was 19, 20, and 21 to understand some of the lessons he taught. But sometimes I think about what I would do to just get a couple hours with him just to kind of see where I've come, you know, and, you know, kind of where everybody's come, you know, since he had passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I can always remember the calls from Chad, the night that, you know, I'd found he had passed, you know. And like I said, to me, Steve is a second father. Before every jiu-jitsu match, before every wrestling match, I'm far from a religious person, but, you know, I thank him for everything he's done for me before all those things, because I know that while he's not here with us, he's always got a front row seat and he's always watching us in some way, shape, or form. And he's always helping form us. And then what does Chad mean to me? Chad is like a brother that I didn't have. I'm sure at points I'm like a brother to him that he didn't have, that he would have definitely smothered at points in my sleep. But Chad's a guy that, you know, as we talked about earlier, man, we looked out for each other a lot when I first started. You know, we're very similar in terms of, you know, we're not very athletic guys, but our lack of athleticism is made up for by dedication to the art, dedication to what we want to accomplish. And I think for sure when I was doing my competitor thing, Chad was going the opposite way and was trying to figure out how to be the best coach that he could be. And I think that he succeeded in that. And I think that, you know, I couldn't be happier for everything that Chad has become over the 11 or 12 years now that I've known him. You know, from being the guy that was drinking the Pepsi out of the cooler at the end of practice to the guy that runs the gym now, to the guy that understands the bottom line of the gym, to the guy that understands the family atmosphere of the gym, to the guy that, you know, makes the gym work. He has created the family environment that Steve Hyman has and always wants East Coast to be. And I think that, you know, if I could have Steve back for those couple hours to eat lunch with him, to go get a coffee like we always used to, and he could just, you know, see the gym, he'd be so proud of everything. Not only, you know, the gym has become, but what Chad's become, you know, like I said, brother.
Yep, absolutely.
Greatly said, for sure.
Weren't you, Dom? You were in Atlanta, weren't you, when Mr. Hyman passed?
I competed that day, and I always tell everybody, I thought, actually, there's a really wild story that I can tell too. It's a good place to tell it. But I lost that day. I lost a really tight decision, and like I thought that was the worst thing that was going to happen to me that day. And I remember we were in the hotel room, and I remember of all people, Mark was the one who called me, because you told Mark, and Mark took it upon himself to call me.
He called you, and I called Shannon.
Yes.
Yeah.
He won that exchange.
Yeah.
Because he called me and he said, "Hey," he said, "where are you?" And I said, "I'm in the room with the crew." And he said, "You need to get outside." He said, "You get outside the room right now." And he said, "I don't know how to tell you this." He goes, "Steve passed away today." And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Just passed away today." He said, "I just talked to Chad." He said, "Chad's going to call Shannon." I said, "Oh God." And I remember I felt really awkward, because like I'm with all like these teammates from Chicago, and like they're all like wanting to go out and party, and like I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit in the room and just kind of cry for the most part. And I have to fly out the next morning, and I remember I was cheap as always. I bought an Expedia deal on like a flight, and I think everybody's flights were at like 11 a.m. Mine was at 6 p.m. It was the day of the Super Bowl, and I remember I just sat in the airport all day waiting. And I remember I was told that there was a bad snowstorm coming to hit Cleveland. I was like, wow. I was like, oh, my flight doesn't get canceled. And I remember getting called to the to the kiosk. It was like a Delta kiosk. And like, hey, they're like, you're on this flight to Cleveland, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. They're like, this flight's gonna get canceled. I'm like, okay. They're like, so we're gonna get you home tonight. And I was like, how are you gonna do that? They're like, we have a flight coming from Myrtle Beach going to Cleveland. They're like, we're gonna put you on that flight. And for anybody who doesn't know, that was where Steve was living at the time. South Carolina. So I always say that Steve made it sure that I got home safely that night.
That's awesome.
It was the last thing he did for me. So
not the last thing.
Nope. That's what I was just going to say.
Not the last thing, but at that time, in my head.
Sure. For sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, man. Awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, we're not going to keep you too much longer, Dom. What do you want your legacy to be, man?
I want my legacy to just be someone that was always chasing something, someone that never settled. I think it's too easy in life to settle and to take the easy way out, to take the, $45,000 a year job, take that and just coast in life. I've never been that way. Pretty much since I was 19, like I said, 18, 19 years old. I've always been chasing something, and I had an easy way. I could have literally gone to school, gone 4 years, gotten a teaching degree, been a high school football, high school wrestling coach my whole life. And I decided against it. I decided to go chase a jiu-jitsu world title. And then when I thought maybe that wasn't quite what I wanted anymore, I decided to go chase being a pro wrestler. And then, who knows, maybe when this is over, I'll find something else. Maybe it'll be to be a coach in jiu-jitsu. Maybe it'll be to be the best pro wrestling trainer I can be. But I never want to settle until it comes time to settle. Obviously, everybody has a time where they have to settle. Right. But until I hit that point, I always want to be chasing something. I always want to have a higher purpose. And I think that we're always there to have that higher purpose. And we always have to find our higher purpose. And for me, my legacy is I just want to be a guy that always is trying to find that higher purpose.
Nice. That's awesome. Well said, man. Very good. Don't stop. Keep grinding. And when it's time to stop, then that'll be that time. And you don't want that door answered now until it's time to be answered. So
nope.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's very cool. Awesome. Chad, what do you got for our man here? Anything?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Dom, we talked a lot about family and feelings and brotherhood, and we both know how we feel about each other and all that stuff. So
I don't know. You didn't say how you feel about him. I didn't hear that.
Me and Chad talk enough.
I'm just giving him a hard time.
Yeah.
I always try to put him on the spot. For everyone out there that hasn't listened to our show, I always put guys on the spot, kind of. I like to mix it in there a little bit because I think it's important because, like I said before, the community is so small, and guys like us that do stuff like this, and obviously I'm very new in it, but I've done a lot of different things in my life, and it just brings you closer, and you find out who real people are, who real individuals are, and who they're going to be to you, and what you can bring to their table and what they'll bring to your table. So that's kind of why I do it all the time. So that's why I always ask those type of open-ended things and have a little fun with it. So sweet, man. Hey, shout out anyone you want, Dom.
Social media, all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, you get all stuff, brother.
So I'm a big guy on Twitter, I guess. Like when I was telling Jay Stu and Dan at the tournament, like how many Twitter and Instagram followers I have, they're like, oh God, I have so many. But if
you're always tweeting stuff too. I always see it.
Yeah. I have to tweet because I would prefer to not have Twitter. Honestly, I would the less social media, the better in my life. But obviously for pro wrestling, it's a very pro social media driven type deal.
Sure.
So on Twitter, follow me at DGarrini.BC. Same Twitter, Instagram. I managed to actually get those both together the same way. So thank God. I I have a lot of like pro wrestling based merch, which a lot of it has to do with jiu-jitsu. It's the coolest designs I can do. And those are available at dgarrini.bigcartel.com. And then I have Pro Wrestling Tees, which is a store based out of Chicago. They do like bulk orders of shirts. I have a bunch of designs on there that aren't on my Big Cartel. And that's if you just go to prowrestlingtees.com and search my name, I'm in there. So check me out there, guys.
Awesome, man. Cool.
Cool.
Thanks for hanging with us, brother. Appreciate you
Thanks
very
for having
much.
me, guys.
Yeah. Look forward to seeing you in the gym coming up.
I will. Yep.
Cool. All right, my man. Take it easy.
I will.
Be safe. Train smart and train hard.
I will.
All right, my brother.
Okay. I'll talk to you guys.
All right.
Later on.
Bye, guys.
Bye.